It was just over a week ago the Walt Disney Company announced that they were going to cancel the 2024 release of the live-action remake of Snow White starring Rachel Zegler, pushing it back to 2025, a full 1-year delay because, well, the actor strike and whatnot. Of course, we were highly suspicious of that excuse, knowing what was going on behind the scenes and all the rumors that we were hearing. And wouldn't you know it, 1 week later, the Daily Mail determined
that was a lie.
Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. Well, as they always say, the truth will out. And this from the Daily Mail: Disney delayed Snow White over fears it will be a financial flop. As you may recall, the Daily Mail was the one that broke this story a few months ago, showing us images from a pickup shoot of sorts for the production where they were flying high-grade drone cameras for additional photography. And we got a first glimpse of what the 7 dwarves were, or what these 7 hippies were. The cringe meter peaked, and the backlash against Disney for what is going on with this film reached a feverish pitch. And then last week, with the announcement of the full 1-year delay, the canceled 2024 release of the film, we got this cryptic image. Where did these 7 dwarves come from all of a sudden? Now we were looking at 7 actual dwarves, CGI nonetheless, but some very suspicious artificial intelligence, perhaps, looking imagery here. Now, this, of course, as of no surprise, led to a ton of additional speculation, and we did a video last week with John Trent from Bounding Into Comics, where we said this. No indication that they were just voice actors only, and the only indication after the whole back and forth between the Daily Beast and the Daily Mail was the Daily Beast saying, oh, we contacted Disney. Disney said, this isn't legit. But then Daily Mail stuck behind their story, and then they got confirmation from Disney, no, it is actually legit. And only 2 people, one of them being Rachel Zegler, had a stand-in in that shot. There was no indication that these were stand-ins for animated characters. No discussion from Disney up to this point that I recall that they were doing CGI characters. No denial of the story from the Daily Mail. It's just, and now we get this. So what do you think of this, John?
Yeah, they're totally redoing this entire movie because they are now replacing these live action actors, these like real physical actors that they had, with these clearly it looks CGI dwarfs here. So I definitely feel like they're going to be reshooting this. The whole reason why they would be doing it is because they probably need to do the reshoots. Obviously, they're still on the strike, but that gives them time to do reshoots. Clearly, something changed.
What's interesting to me is even if they didn't have final renderings like this available in July, surely, absolutely, they would have had some type of artist's rendering from early in pre-production phases of what the dwarves were going to look like this. They could have shown anything like that. They could have shown a still image. That wouldn't have spoiled anything. But now the Daily Mail has seemed to have confirmed everything that John and I discussed. Every speculation we had as to why we thought Disney was really putting the brakes on this film for an entire year, announcing the cancellation and delay of that 1 year, a full 5 months plus before the film was actually set to release. That's a long time out, especially when compared to things like Warner Brothers that announced that the sequel, Dune 2, would be pushed back to the following year into 2024. They did that only about 2 months before the movie was set to release. In fact, this week in November. But from the Daily Mail, Disney is said to be delaying its upcoming Snow White remake in a bid to avert a, quote, financial disaster, with producers reportedly fearing that it will bomb at the box office and cripple any chance of future spin-offs. Last week, the studio announced it had pushed back the film's release until March of 2025, a whole year after the scheduled date, citing the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike as the driving force behind the decision. But an insider has exclusively told DailyMail.com that Disney is said to be, quote, figuring out what to do after making a $330 million turkey, and is looking to Tom Hooper's widely panned Cats as a guide on what to avoid. The decision comes after Rachel Zegler, 22 years old, who plays the titular princess, launched a woke tirade at the original weird plot with a stalker prince, according to her, despite having only watched the 1937 animation once, according to her, as a child. Let's stop for a minute and really soak in that number. $330 million turkey, as this Disney insider refers to it. That means that this person is suggesting that the total cost to date for this film is $330 million in production alone. Now, I want to be incredibly fair. This production was hit with a lot of problems beyond their control. Of course, they started filming this around the time the pandemic was striking the world and locking everything down, causing massive production delays. We saw a lot of those problems for many big budget films. This is $330 million out of Disney's pocket, and they're about to do a massive amount of reshoots on this and add a ton of new CGI again. We could be looking at a film that has a final price tag of $450 million for this. What's also truly fascinating is to come to the realization of how much Disney has spent additionally to film this in the last 18 months since the last financial reports were filed in the UK. We covered this story from our friend Caroline Reed over at Forbes magazine about a month ago. Why Disney's Snow White remake must gross $340 million. Now, that was based on information that we had up till that moment in time. In essence, what you have to understand, the way Caroline does these, is what she's suggesting here as a needed break-even point at the box office is merely based on the information that she has right now. Meaning that if Disney didn't spend another dime after July 31st, 2022, and simply had a net $170 million US spend after they got some UK film tax credits back, and they spent no money marketing the film, the movie would need $340 million roughly at the global box office to break even. But of course, both myself and Caroline are fully cognizant of the fact that the spending is not over, that marketing costs are not being factored in yet. This is simply a tracking method time over time with each report that comes out. In this article, Caroline Reed managed to find the latest report for this production, suggesting that up to July 31st, 2022, Disney had spent a total of $209.3 million, or 150 million British pounds sterling, on making Snow White. And the filings add the colossal cost was partly driven by the pandemic, causing, quote, delays to the production of the motion picture. Now, when we covered that in a video, I called attention, specific attention to that date of July 31st, 2022, not 23, but 22. And I suggested there was going to be a lot more to come down the pike on what they spent after that, because that movie was still deep into production. And of course, the Daily Mail images with the pickup shoots were from July of this year, 2023, so we knew there was still a lot going on, and I speculated the final price tag of this film would probably approach $300 million. And boy, did I nail it, or did I nail it? Because according to this insider, that's exactly what the case is. Splashing $330 million onto Snow White. That means that since the end of July of 2022, Disney had thrown an additional 120 some odd million dollars worth of production cost into this thing. And now they're going back to the drawing board again. From the article, quote, Disney had to delay Snow White because they've spent so much money on it. And if it is a financial disaster at the box office, it might single-handedly cripple future remakes and potential Snow White sequels that they have planned, the insider claimed. Quote, they also have to remove themselves from the bad taste in the mouths of online critics and want to instead deliver a great film and get to a point where they get it right. They realize that they were overthinking things and are now reining it all in a little bit more. And some of those mistakes, according to the insider, producers and crew members of Snow White are said to be trying to learn from mistakes made by films such as Sonic the Hedgehog, which was forced to push back its release after viewers slated Sonic's appearance following the first trailer reveal. And that's true. The first images of Sonic the Hedgehog caused a great alarm with fans out there, so much so that the creator of the film said, hey, we're sorry, we got this wrong. We're going to go back and fix this and make it right. And they did, and the Sonic franchise has been a relative success for them ever since. And this insider who leaked to the Daily Mail seems to suggest that that is exactly what Disney is doing now. Seeing the fan backlash of the imagery that came off of the original UK Daily Mail article from back in July with the pictures of the 7 things, and are now showing us instead, forget what you saw before, we're going to this. And what exactly did they overthink? Well, I think they overthought all of the backlash from one member of the little people or dwarf community, that being Peter Dinklage, who screamed and ranted on an interview about how terrible it was that Disney would be utilizing these characters again. Now, of course, other actors from that community said, no, wait a minute, these are jobs for us. This is exactly what we're out here for. It seems that maybe, just maybe, Disney has come to its senses. And look, right now, Disney is staring down the barrel of a complete disaster next week when The Marvels releases. We've been covering that extensively. That is set to produce about the worst box office in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Disney can ill afford 2 live-action movies in a row bombing that hard, because Snow White, had it been left in its March 24 release, would have been on deck. Disney has a mess on its hands, a mess that it largely made on its own, barring some of those production delays. But even if you factored those out and they had to go back and remake this movie again, you'd still be talking about over $300 million for this, which I still cannot fathom. But with everything all in, we're now looking at a north of $400 million production, no question, and it may even go higher depending on how much they have to reshoot and how much CGI work it's going to take to now create these 7 dwarves that they never originally intended. That means that they're going to have to bring Rachel Zegler back to shoot a lot of the scenes, put her in front of green screens, have people standing around in motion capture suits perhaps. This production cost just went from already being sky high to just now it's in a different galaxy. This movie is going to have to make probably well over $1 billion at the box office just to break even. I can't even imagine this right now. What is going on in Disney's mind looking at what they've done to themselves again? Can't wait for that earnings call in a few days on Wednesday, November 8th. Hope you join us for that. We'll be covering it live at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're here for that. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.